Take two. Tilliah Brooks, thank you for joining me on GV Talks.
Thanks, Harley. I'm so excited to be here.
This is actually take two. So we're about 10 minutes into an awesome interview and I forgot to press record.
We've all been there. It's been a long year, Harley. Don't blame yourself.
What have you been up to this morning, Tilliah?
Not too much. I've been playing with my foster kittens that I've got at home. So I've just been tidying up after them this morning, giving them a bit of food and getting them sorted before I came in here.
How would you usually spend a weekend?
Normally my morning starts off with playing with foster kittens and cleaning up after them, feeding them, all that sort of stuff. And then the rest of my weekends normally spent with my friends or my family. I don't have any family that live locally, so I normally have to travel to go and see them. So now with all these restrictions easing, I'll be able to go see way more of my family, which will be really good.
Yeah, great. Are you a Shepparton local?
I'm sort of am and sort of not. So I grew up in Barooga and Yarrawonga, but I've always gone to school in Shepparton since I was in year 5. So kind of, but not really.
But this is your home?
Yeah, this is my home now, definitely. I live here with my partner now and our 2 cats, so this is definitely home.
Yeah, great. Do you want to tell the Shepparton people who they're listening to?
Sure. So my name is Tilliah Brooks. I'm 26 years old. I have lived in Shepparton for, I think, 3 years. I think that's right. I live with my partner, Jazz, and we have 2 rescue cats, Dumpling and Lulu.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah.
Do you ever try and negotiate for more?
Oh, we're literally in, I wouldn't say an argument, a discussion at the moment because I really want to keep one of the foster kittens that we've got at the moment. Jazz is definitely probably the reason that I don't have 24 of my own cats because he's very much no. Even to keep the 2 that we have now, he was sort of no, you should just foster. We don't need to have our own. And I was no, but I really, I had such a soft spot for these 2 because we had them since they were about probably 4 weeks old and they were both very sick. So I had to really give them a lot of TLC and I just bonded with them and had a bond. And I was Jazz, you can't make me give these 2 away. I want to keep these ones. So luckily with a lot of persuading for over 6 months, I managed to persuade him to let me keep them. But yeah, we've got a little one in care at the moment and she's living with us. And I keep saying to him we're going to keep this one. And he's we're definitely not keeping this one.
Would you say you're more of a cat person or a dog person?
Oh, I love all animals, but I would say I definitely have a soft spot for cats. I just think that they're so special and they're so overlooked. So many people are oh, cats, I can't deal with cats. I just love dogs. And I'm all cats have such special personalities, same as dogs, same as any animal. So I think I do have a bit of a soft spot for them. And I think I would Jazz always says, I like them because my personality's like them. I'm very chilled out, laid back. I like being at home, so he thinks that I'm like a cat and he more has the personality of a dog.
Yeah. I feel you can't tame a cat and I respect that.
Yeah, that's what I say. I'm they're just their own being without having to please you or do anything. And Jazz always gets frustrated because you can't discipline them or train them like you can with a dog. So he'll be Lulu, come here. And she just sits there and stares at him and he's just this is so frustrating. And I'm but she doesn't exist to please you. I'm just go pick her up and then take her where you want her to go. That's all you have to do. They're just different to dogs.
Yeah.
But he's always grown up with dogs and has never had a cat until he was with me.
Yeah.
So I think it was a bit of an adjustment for him and he was actually allergic when we were first together. And in my mind, I was just thinking, this is not going to work. If he's allergic to cats and I'm obsessed with cats, but then eventually he sort of built up a tolerance and now he's not allergic anymore, luckily for him.
Yeah, it seems I've heard that story before where people have allergic reactions to cats and they get more exposure to them slowly and they kind of must just build up a resistance.
Yeah,
have you read anything like that or?
Oh, I've heard different things. I've got a carer at the moment and she is caring for a long-haired cat because she's allergic to short-haired cats. So she thinks that it could just be the texture of the fur that really seems to irritate her. But yeah, it's interesting. And now they've got there's hypoallergenic breeds of cats. So even people who are allergic can have these certain breeds of cats. Same as what they're doing with all the cavoodle, oodle, doodle crossbreed puppy ones that are all hypoallergenic. So then people that do have allergies can still actually have pets. Because I would hate my life so much if I was allergic and couldn't have any pets because I just am obsessed with animals. So I think it is positive that there are some hypoallergenic breeds out there for people.
Where did that love for animals stem from?
I grew up on a farm So I think I've always been around animals from a young age, and I've always grown up with pets. So I would have, I had cats when I was younger, and we had a golden retriever called Freckles throughout like my whole childhood, and he was just the best dog ever. But yeah, I think sort of growing up on a farm and just being exposed to like all different kinds of animals, and like hand rearing them and looking after the sick ones and everything, I think that just sort of fostered that within me, that's just something that I've always cared really deeply for and have, now sort of in a position to advocate for as well.
Yeah, great. How did GB pet adoption come to life?
So I sort of just found myself in a really like-minded group of people, where we all really cared about animals and sort of saw that there was a problem, not just within our community, but actually across the whole country, where tens of thousands of animals were being euthanized just because they didn't have homes to go to. So I think we were sort of all just sitting there and going, we don't want to just be people who sort of sit back and go, oh, we're aware of that problem, but that's someone else's issue to deal with. We sort of said, well, this is actually our issue to deal with. We know about it. We care about animals. How could we just sit back and not do anything? So we've sort of brainstormed, and that's how GB Pet Adoption came to life. So I guess it was definitely a team effort, and I'm very lucky that I have a really amazing group of foster carers around me that are willing to put the work in, because it's not all, cute kittens and puppies and everything like behind the scenes. That can be pretty full on, and we do deal with some sort of higher risk situations as well with the animals that come into our care. But yeah, that's sort of how it got started.
With those high risk cases, how do you stop them from destroying you?
I think just sort of knowing where the catalyst for change in that animal's life, like where the turning point, where it's going to get better from here. Like all the horrible stuff, it ends here when you come into care with us, and when we find you that forever home, your life's never going to be what it was before. And I think, like, I know all of my carers individually have had different, we sort of call them surrenders when we have to, when someone surrenders an animal to us. There's been times where we've all struggled with surrenders where sometimes they're just really gut-wrenching. But I think, just knowing that animal's now safe with us and we can help them overcome like their trauma-based behaviour, and, the scars will heal and the wounds will recover, and we have a really amazing vet team that we work very closely with. So they've always provided us with a lot of advice and a lot of support for the animal and emotionally for us, because sometimes it does get tricky. But so I think just knowing that there's a team of support around us, and that we have a group that we can sort of turn to each other at any time and be like, oh, this just happened and it was really upsetting for me. And I always try to be that sounding board for all of my carers, that if something's happened that their gut is just saying, hey, I don't feel right about this, or I need, we need assistance, we need this, we need that, then I think that's just what I try to be for them, that support person that they can come to and just like burst into tears over the phone, or just say, hey, can I come over? I've just done an adoption and it was actually like really emotional for me, because as much as sometimes those animals are going to the best homes, you just sort of go, oh, I had a bond with them and I really loved them. So sometimes even just the adoptions can be bittersweet, because they're going to a great home, but you just had that bond. So seeing them go can be a bit hard sometimes too.
Do you think animals help you grow as a person?
1,000%. 1,000%. I think they open your heart up. They help you to be more compassionate, more empathetic, show you how to care for somebody else, I think is a really important trait that everybody should have. And I think that, like, for me, I'm very much an introverted person, so I love just being at home with my animals. I find that just really, it just helps me to unwind. And just, it's sort of like self-care. Like, there's no better noise to me than a purring cat or kitten, so I just love getting to spend my time with them every day.
Cat or dog person?
Oh, I love all animals, I really do, but I would definitely say I'm a cat person. I just think they're so special and they're so like underrated. So many people just go automatically dogs, but I'm like, cats are just so special, and I think that it's pretty cool that they're just their own person. They don't live to please anybody. They're just a cat. They're just there, and they're just very, very special.
To me, there's no better feeling than coming home and seeing someone excited to see you, and that is a dog. Yes.
See, but one of my cats, every time I come home from work, as soon as I open our garage door, she like bolts through the door because she's so excited to see me, and she'll sit at particularly more Jazz, she does this too than me, but she'll sit at his feet and meow until he picks her up, and she does this big like stretch and stretches herself all the way back every time he gets home from work. So I think, I wouldn't say like, yeah, they're sort of sitting there with like their tails wagging or anything, but they definitely do get excited just in a more like demure and laid back way, I would say.
Yeah. Yeah, cats seem more majestic, definitely.
100%. They're more majestic. They're a bit more, I don't know, what's the right word to say? They're just more like laid back, and they sort of don't ever let you know what they're thinking and sort of play like hard to get with you almost. That's what one of our cats does. Like she'll sometimes come and lay on me and Jazz, or she'll just like would prefer to lay next to you. She's very particular. And then she'll sort of like come and just lay on either me or Jazz, and we're like, oh my goodness, look, she's actually laying on us. And we're just like, this will last for 10 seconds. And she'll literally sit there for 10 seconds and then walks away. And she's sort of like, nope, that's all you get.
Does Jazz love the cats?
He does now. Sorry. At the start, he was not so sure on the two that we actually ended up keeping. He was very much like, no, like just foster them and then adopt them out. But I had a real bond with these two, and just had to really persuade him to let me keep them. But now he loves them, and I laugh all the time because he's just sort of like, you know, he comes off to everyone else like he doesn't really love the cats, but he'll get home from work and be like, oh, hello, my little girls, how was your day? And so it just cracks me up because he just has like that really sweet side to him that he does really love the cats now. It's taken like 2 years, but he's got there.
How did he go supporting you when you said you wanted to build this GB pet adoption? He
was really supportive. I think at the start he sort of didn't really know what we were getting into, because it has definitely grown and evolved into something a lot bigger than I thought it was going to be, considering that it sort of has only been running just over a year. You know, we've taken a lot of animals in, and we sort of end up being the base for where they all get surrendered. So he sort of sometimes is like, oh my goodness, there's so many cats here right now. And I'm just like, I know, but like carers are coming this afternoon. Like I've just got to keep them for a couple of hours while they're at work. So he's definitely been really supportive. And obviously with him having his business and stuff, I get like lots of free signs and, you know, all that sort of stuff through him. So that pays off quite well for me, that I don't, that he's been able to help us with that, because obviously being like a not-for-profit, all that sort of stuff, like funding everything is a struggle, because we are like exclusively just a charity and run on donations from the community and our adoption fee. So that's how the whole thing runs. But yeah, he has been very supportive and has helped me a lot, like come to surrenders with me if I've sort of just had a bit of a gut feeling that maybe it would be better if someone else came with me, he's been at home and had to like do lots of drop-offs and pickups and be there when carers need food, or drop stuff off to people, and everything. So he's been very helpful.
It sounds like you guys are a great team.
Yeah, I would like to think so.
Yeah. When you mentioned earlier, you'll get a pet surrendered and they will have their trauma. How do you identify like what their trauma is and what causes it? Obviously, pets can't speak.
Yeah.
So is there towels for that sort of thing?
There definitely is. We had a dog come into care a couple of months ago who had cigarette butt burns on his body. So stuff like that is really confronting, like for myself and for my carers as well. We often get dogs who've got like bite marks on them from other dogs. So like, especially like on their nose, or like here on their sort of the fronts of their legs or the backs of their legs. So the physical scars will heal. You know, sometimes we can get stuff that's going to help them, like put special creams on and all that stuff. But a lot of the time it's their behaviour that's sort of harder to work out, because like you said, they can't just say, hey, this is what scares me and this is what makes me upset. One of my carers has had a dog in care with her for probably, I want to say 4 or 5 months now, because she's got so much trauma-based behaviour. She lashes out if new people come to this carer's home. I've got another dog in care at the moment who, if you pick up a stick or hold anything in your hand, he completely cowers and will nearly wet himself.
Yeah.
So just knowing that those dogs have quite clearly been abused in their previous homes, because, you know, a dog who hasn't been abused doesn't react that way if you pick up a hose or pick up a stick or anything like that. So just really working with them to make sure that they know that they're safe and that they're loved, and you know, nothing bad's ever going to happen to them here. And, you know, my carers are very they take a lot of pride in really being able to create that nurturing environment for that animal to really see that change in their behaviour. We also have trainers that we work with. So we work with Michelle from Unleashed Doggy Daycare, and we work with Nathalie Boarding Kennels as well, just to give us that extra layer of expertise and socialisation for the dogs, because a lot of these dogs that we take into care, often they haven't actually left the backyard of the home they were living in. So they're dogs that, you know, didn't get to go for walks or didn't get to go down the river, or be socialised with other dogs. So sometimes they can be quite reactive to other dogs. So we have to do work with them with that, or they're not sure how to walk on a leash because they've never been taken out of that backyard, or sometimes even just putting a collar on can be really confronting for them because they've never had to wear one before because they've never left their backyard.
How do you stop these stories from destroying you?
I think just sort of trying to see it as, you know, we're the turning point for them. So whatever's happened before, it's never going to happen again. It's never going to happen while they're in foster care with us, and we have a really stringent adoption process to really try to make sure that these animals are going to the best home possible, because we would, you know, I would be so disappointed if I ever found out that an animal that we'd adopted ended up being in a less than perfect scenario. So I think that we really try to do our best to be really diligent and make sure we're being really thorough and asking all the right questions so we can get a real sense of where this animal is going, and making sure that these people are in a position to care for them, you know, for the rest of their lives, whether that's 10, 20 years, and being able to care for them in a way that they deserve, and make sure that, you know, they've got food and water, and they've got, you know, the sweetest families who are going to cherish them and take them for walks and play with them and do all those things that every animal deserves.
Yeah, so you go through these tough times, but it would be so rewarding
when
you get to see that. Like,
yeah.
Can you think of a specific time where you felt like overwhelmed with joy because of the way that things have played out?
Yeah, definitely. I think getting updates from people who adopt from us is one of the best things, because we really get to see how far they've come. So one of our foster carers, she actually adopted from us before becoming a foster carer, and she adopted a dog who had been in a situation where he had been used as a sort of as a weapon in a family violence setting. So he had been abused by somebody who was using this as a tactic to hurt his ex-partner.
Yeah.
So he was very, very shut down when he came into care, and he was only a puppy. And he had the best foster home, and he was super, super, super spoiled and really overcame a lot of that. But when he was adopted, he just changed even more, and just became this amazingly beautiful, sweet dog who was so comfortable and was so relaxed in his home. And his owner has just said, you know, like 12 months later, I really see the true side of his personality coming out. Like, it's taken that long, because there'd be times where, you know, if she shut the gate too loudly, he would cower, and she's just would think, you know, how much stuff has happened to this dog. Like, he was only a puppy when he came into care, but he already had so much trauma-based behaviour in those couple of months that he was in his home, that it just goes to show how significant that trauma really was for him, that it's taken him, you know, a full 12 months to really work through. So seeing how far he's come is amazing. And he actually, the lady brought him around to my house a couple of weeks ago, and I got to see him, and he's huge, but he's so relaxed and the most easygoing dog, and like, he loves cats, and he's just, to see how far he's come is just huge. And I think that that's really rewarding, and getting to see, you know, not only did they thrive in foster care and we really saw a difference, but actually they're still continuing that process in their forever homes, and have really made themselves at home and have gone to an amazing family.
Yeah. Can you teach an old dog new tricks?
I think yes, you definitely can. We actually had an older dog come into care a couple of months ago, and we thought she was 7, and she actually ended up being 10. So we didn't work that out till she went to the vets, and they saw a microchip and went, no, she's definitely 10. And we were like, okay. But she, again, was so shut down when she came into care. So she had come from a family where her owner had passed away, and she'd been at the home, and someone had just been going and feeding her every day for a couple of months. So she hadn't had a lot of social interaction. So when she came into care, she was so anxious. Like, her carers could basically not do anything without her. They had to include her in everything they did, take her everywhere, go everywhere with her. And then, you know, we ended up working out that she was actually quite unwell as well. So she had all these stones. I think they were I can't even think what they were, kidney stones, I think it was. And so she was actually in a lot of pain, which we didn't pick up on because we were just trying to manage the anxiety. And then eventually we worked out there was something physically going on for her too. So once she had that procedure, I've actually got a photo and it warms my heart so much because she was just she was so sweet, but was so sad. Like her face was sad. Everything she did, she just looked sad. And then a couple of days after she'd had this procedure, the carer sent me a photo and she looks like she's smiling in the photo. So it's, she'd gone through all of that physical pain and that emotional pain of losing, her person that she'd lived with for 10 years to then coming into this unfamiliar environment of foster care, and she wasn't well. So then to have, we did a lot of training with her around improving her anxiety and getting her to a place where she was this really happy dog again. And then we had this procedure as well, so she was no longer in pain, and you could see it all over her that she was just this completely different dog. So at 10 years old, she went from being, shy and scared and sad to this like happy, boisterous, full of life dog that was like she had the personality of a puppy again.
Yeah. I think you can definitely change an old dog if you're patient enough. You just need to find the right people, and it sounds like you are.
Yeah. And I think having that team of people, because I'm a very big believer in like I can't be an expert in everything. So I need people around me who have more knowledge in different areas than I do. So that's why we're really lucky that we have, trainers on board, and we've got carers who've got lots of different experience on board as well. So I think going about it that way and just making sure that there's lots of people that we can reach out to if we need assistance or we need support. And I've created some really good relationships with other people who run rescues across the state as well. So having a sounding board with them has helped me a lot because I'm so new at this. Like I just literally, logged on and registered the business name and created a website, and I was like, okay, I'll just, wing it with everything else. So having that has been really helpful.
Yeah. Well, it's obviously grown because you're doing the right thing.
Yeah, I would say that we're doing the right thing. And it is awesome to see how much it's grown. I definitely did not expect it to be this big, this quick. I sort of was a bit anxious at the start if it would even turn into anything, or if we would literally just have, one cat in at a time, or, that was all it was going to be. But now it's definitely grown to be something that I'm incredibly proud of. And I know my team's very proud of what it's become and what we've been able to achieve in such a short time.
What's the end goal?
Oh, the end goal would be that, we don't have to euthanize any animals in the country unless they're actually really unwell. That would be the goal. And I know that's the goal for every rescue, to know that we can save them all. And I think there's I know that I wear a lot of responsibility. And I do find it really hard to say no to people. If they, say like, I'm in this situation and I've got this dog and I need to rehome it, or my cat's had kittens, or whatever the situation is. We can only take in so many animals. We have a limit, and I don't want to overwhelm myself or overwhelm my carers, because then you burn out, and I don't want us to get to a place where I have burnt out carers who are overwhelmed and over it and don't want to do it anymore. So I think saying no can be really difficult, and that's a boundary that I've had to work on creating, that I can't help everyone. I can't save every animal at the moment, because it's a community effort. It's not just up to rescue groups to do it. Everyone in the community needs to take an active part in stopping this problem, so that we don't have to euthanize completely healthy animals every day.
This might be too big of an accolade, but don't you just feel like you're like a superhuman? Like, that's what superheroes have to deal with. You can't save everyone. Like, they're the same traumas that those people are going through, and you're dealing with those because you're trying to make a difference to the world.
Yeah, it can be a very interesting space. Like, I definitely don't think I'm a superhero by any sense of the word, because people put a lot of responsibility on us, and people will sometimes be like, but if you don't take this animal, they're going to be put down, or they'll try to sort of bait us into having to say yes. And I just have to say, these people, I can add them to our wait list, but I don't have a carer right now who can take them on. And within Shepparton, we also do have the Shepparton Animal Shelter. So I direct people to them, and I say, they're a council-run shelter. They're in a position to help you if you live within this municipality. But it is really frustrating be made to feel like it's our problem that we've had to say no. And in an ideal world, I'd never have to say no, and I'd have 100 carers who I could call on at, you know, any time of day. But the reality is that I don't. And, you know, hopefully we can grow our base of foster carers so that we have to say no less often. But again, like I said, it's within the community as well to really change our values and change how we view pets and what we actually need to do as a whole, so that it's not sort of all just falling on rescues and on the shelters to really pick up the slack where people just, you know, haven't been bothered to de-sex their pets, or, you know, didn't make plans for their pet to come with them when they move.
That's a great answer. When I was in Athens, there was a lot of stray dogs, and they were all well behaved. You would eat at a restaurant, all of the restaurants were outdoors. They wouldn't come up and sit at you and give you puppy dog eyes or anything like that. And we went on a day tour, and as we were doing the day tour, the guide said, "You'll notice a lot of stray dogs." Like 10 years ago or whatever it was, every single dog got adopted. So if you look at those dogs, every single dog has a collar with its name on it. Every single dog in the city is like a registered dog, like, and has the same rights as a human. And on the collar, there's a phone number, and that phone number is somebody in the town who is responsible for that stray dog. So if, let's say, a dog was hurt or looking sick or looking unwell, you can just go look at the number, and somebody would come out from Athens and look after the dog.
That's amazing.
Every single dog.
That is amazing.
They tried to do it to the cats too, but there was just way too many.
That's the thing with cats. They breed like 1,000 times quicker than dogs do.
These stray dogs looked healthy and they looked happy, and
that's the thing. Like, I think we as a society have, especially in Australia, view dogs as, you know, they're our pets. They live within our home. They stay within our backyard. You'd never just see a dog free roaming the street unless it was a dog that had got out by accident. But I think when you go overseas and you do see stuff like that, and you're just like, oh my goodness, there's dogs everywhere and there's cats everywhere and what's going on? It's really confronting. But so many, cities have really taken an approach of being like, we're going to get all the dogs and we're going to have them de-sexed and they're going to be registered and people are actually going to be responsible for caring for them. I know it's something that's really taken off in America is called TNR. So it's trap, neuter and return. So that's a strategy that they're using with stray cats in America, which is one of the most humane ways to manage the stray cat population. So what they do is they will trap these feral cats, they'll have them de-sexed so they can't breed, but then put them back where they've come from, and then someone will be responsible for feeding that colony of cats. So you'll have someone in the community that lives nearby that will just say, okay, every night I'll go out and, you know, open a few cans and pour them out. Cats will just eat off the road when they're stray cats. So you can just pour it on the footpath and they'll just sit there and eat it. And then they're actually just, you know, living out their lives where they're happy and where they're comfortable, but then they're not going to keep breeding. So once those cats pass away, there's not going to be 4,000 other cats to take their place that they've bred over the course of their lives. So I think seeing something like that employed across the world would be insane, because there's a stray cat problem everywhere. I don't know of anywhere that doesn't have it. Everyone is dealing with the same issues of going, there's just cats and cats and cats. And in, you know, we have a kitten season where cats are more likely to breed and will breed at a quicker rate. So we're in kitten season at the moment, and it will run from about September until about May, where we will just get basically daily messages of people saying, hey, my cat's had kittens, I can't keep them, or I've tried to find them homes myself and I just can't. And we have a rule where we will say to people, we will, if we can take them on, obviously, we will take on the kittens, but you either have to guarantee to us and demonstrate to us that you've gotten your cat de-sexed, or if you're not in a position to pay for it yourself and you need some financial assistance, we can pay for the cat to be de-sexed. But we will only accept one litter from you. We're not going to, you know, get messages from you every couple months saying, hey, she's had another litter, hey, she's had another litter, because I still haven't got her de-sexed. It's the quickest and easiest way to stop the pet overpopulation issue across the country is to have your pet de-sexed.
Yeah. Well, it seems like there's initiatives taking place around the world, and Australia just seems a little bit behind with everything.
Australia is so far behind with everything to do with animals, and it's really frustrating because I know we have so many people who are being so incredibly innovative around what we can do and the strategies that we can actually try, because the strategies we have are so outdated and are actually, some of them are horrific, like 1080 bait poisoning. So they will drop bait across like countrysides and through wildlife reserves and parks, and if pets actually eat it, it causes them basically just to have a seizure and pass away. And it's horrific. Like they'll throw up blood and all these things, and it just like dissolves all their insides as they eat it. And it happens all the time because people take their dogs for walks through bushland, and it's supposed to target like wildlife overpopulation, which why we kill our own wildlife is insane. But anyway, and yeah, well, dogs and cats will eat it and they just pass away straight away. There's nothing vets can do to help them. And, you know, why are we still having animal management strategies like that? It's just horrible.
I've never heard of that.
Yeah,
that is crazy.
Yeah, you can Google it and there's literally like thousands of articles about it. There's Facebook groups about it. There's petitions. There's like groups within the community that are trying so hard just to say we don't want this. We don't want our animals to be managed this way. Like, you know, we can manage animals through desexing. We can trap them, desex them, and release them, and then that will manage them that way, and it's humane. We don't need these animals to suffer and go through this horrible way of passing away. There's much more effective strategies, and Andy Medic, who is in the Animal Justice Party, he's actually just put a proposition through Parliament within Victoria to really overhaul our animal rights charter and what we can actually do, on what shelters need to do, on what rescues need to do, on what pet owners need to do, and really is trying to push through like stronger penalties for animal abuse, people who are found guilty of that, because the sentences and the outcomes for people who are actually found guilty are there's just basically nothing. It's just a slap on the wrist. And he's sort of saying, no, we need to try harder, and shelters need to release animals more to animal rescue groups, and saying that animal rescue groups, we need to really try to create and foster these relationships with shelters so we can work together as a team, and saying that the government actually needs to fund desexing initiatives as well across the state, so that desexing is accessible for everybody.
Yes.
Because that's one thing that we find a lot, is that people will message us and say, hey, like I'm on a pension, or I have a healthcare card, and I don't have a lot of money, but I've got 3 female cats and I can't afford to pay $450 to desex them all, and then pay for microchips on top of that, and pay for vaccinations on top of that. So, I always do say having a pet is a privilege. It's not a right. So you're not entitled to own a pet if you're not in a position to be able to care for them. But, some people, they love their pets and they love having lots of them. But just that step of actually getting them desexed so then they're not contributing to the problem is something that a lot of people do struggle with financially.
Yeah. Do you think it should be harder for people to get pets?
I think it should, and I think that's something that the responsibility of breeders really have to take on board as well, because rescue groups do have really stringent processes. It's not just a matter of sending us a message and saying, hey, that kitten that you posted is really cute, can I come and pick them up? We have a whole screening process, which I think is really important, because I think some people, like the idea of being like, oh, that's such a cute dog, or that's such a cute kitten, and then a year later they're the people that will surrender that animal because it's grown up and it's not cute anymore, and then they'll just stay in that cycle of getting a puppy and then rehoming and getting a puppy and rehoming. So I think that, yeah, it can definitely, there's a lot of stuff that needs to change.
Yeah. Yeah. You need somebody who can just put these things in place that are like the person you were speaking about earlier.
Yeah.
Like get these things across the board and make it just, it might not be ideal for some people, but it'll be better for the pets. Yeah,
for sure. And I think that, if the government sort of does put these initiatives in place to really try to make, desexing more affordable, and having desexing days within, each council or something like that, where people can come in and pay that reduced rate, it's really going to incentivize people to come in and say, hey, I actually really did want to get my animal desexed, but I just wasn't in a financial position to pay for it. And, a lot of families have so much stuff going on, and COVID has not helped financially for a lot of families with losing jobs, or, their hours have been cut back, all those sorts of things. So I think majority of people actually do want to do the right thing, but they don't have their financial means at the moment. But I think that breeders do also need to take that responsibility on board and say, if I'm actually going to make that decision to breed my animal, it's my responsibility to have them desexed before they go to their homes.
Yeah.
So then we're not just creating that environment of, oh, I'm selling undesexed cats and dogs and I'm selling them and you can do whatever you want. It's up to you to get them desexed. It needs to be the responsibility of the breeders to make sure that those animals are desexed, they're vaccinated and microchipped before they go to their forever homes. And I think that if that actually was mandated, that breeders had to do that, we would notice a massive shift in how many animals are ending up in shelters, because you know, the animals that get surrendered to us are the ones that have been bought from unregistered breeders, that aren't desexed, that aren't microchipped, that aren't vaccinated. And they're the ones that, you know, someone said, oh, well, I found them on Gumtree, or I saw them on Instagram or on Facebook, and I just sent them a message and that was it. I just had to express my interest, and that to me isn't good enough. Like, these are living beings. They're not just, you know, someone's old couch that you found on Facebook Marketplace. Like, this is an animal that you're committing to take on that responsibility to care for, you know, 10 to 20 years, depending on the longevity of their life. So I think it is really important to do our due diligence as human beings who are in charge of making these decisions, and really think about what we're doing and understand that the impact that that's having on those animals.
When I was living in Warrnambool, one of my friends worked on a farm and he trained dogs. And we were talking about training dogs, and it makes me a bit squirmish, but how he explained it to me was there's a dominance hierarchy and the dog should be below you. And like, he might have just been especially because he was on a farm, but what he would do when he would get a puppy would be hold it down by the scruff and growl at it.
Wow.
Right? But in saying that, like, he only did that when it was very young to let it know its place. And I've seen the dogs and they loved him and they were very well behaved. Like, if it was going to run on the road and he said its name, it would stop. Yeah. Where I see a lot of dogs don't do that. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Like, like, and how he said it, like, he said it was hard to do that. Yeah. But he said it was for the dog's own good. Like, how do you feel about that?
Look, I think there's no training book for exactly how to train a dog. Everyone has a different viewpoint and a different opinion about how to do it. I know within myself I could never do anything that would even be like the tiniest bit mean. Like, perfect example, our cats jump on our kitchen bench all the time, and they're not supposed to do that. We cook food there, whatever. But they do it, and Jazz will always be like, just yell at them and tell them to get off the bench. And I'm like, but she doesn't understand why I'm raising my voice at her. Like, I'm not just going to yell at her just for the sake of it. I'll just walk around and pick her up and put her on the ground. He's like, but she jumps back up. I'm like, and then I'll put her back down. Like, I just physically don't have it in me to do anything that's even like as mean as like growling at an animal or raising my voice at them. I could never do it. But I think he obviously does that for a reason. He's been, you know, instructed that that's some form of training. Whether or not that's the right thing, I don't know. I'm not a qualified dog trainer, but like, I haven't ever been instructed to do something like that, and I don't think that I could or would. Yeah.
Like, it doesn't seem right, but like, he was trying to say it like he was teaching it a lesson so it could like fulfill its purpose and have a good life. Yeah,
and I think working dogs are definitely trained very differently to like your average pet. I have seen, you know, come across a lot of working dogs, and like, it's amazing how highly trained they are. I do know some of the methods to get them to that point, and not just pointing at your friend, but I do know like some other methods that are used and stuff aren't exactly methods that I would ever encourage people to use. But, you know, for whatever reason, those people who breed those working dogs and train them use those methods for some reason. Yeah.
What is the screening process if somebody wants to adopt?
So if you see an animal on our page, so we post everything on our social media pages through Instagram and Facebook. So if you see an animal that you're interested in that you would like to adopt through us, we require people to submit an adoption application through our website. And from there, if we have multiple applications for one animal, we will pick shortlisted applicants. From there, we'll contact them and say, you know, you can have a chat with the foster carer. So that will normally be over the phone or just through text message, just depending on what each person is comfortable with. And just really going over the questions with them that they've already answered in our application, and just ensuring that they're very well aware of, you know, if the animal has special, you know, considerations that need to be, you know, they need to be mindful of, or if they've got health concerns or they're going to need special food or special something throughout their life, just making sure they're very well aware of that, and that we're very well aware of the environment that animal is going to go into and going to live in. So I think that's really important for us to make sure that we have all of that information. And I know people do find the adoption process frustrating because a lot of rescues are the same, where they do require a lot of information from you and their questionnaires can be quite extensive. But what people need to understand is, we've cared for these animals and we've had them in our homes and we love them like they're our own pets. So we're not just going to let them go to any Tom, Dick or Harry who wants to apply. We're going to make sure that they're going to the best home. And I would really encourage people that if they are wanting to adopt a pet, write your application like it's a resume for your dream job. Like, tell us everything about yourselves, about your family, about the kind of life that this, dog or cat is going to have with you. Don't just answer the questions yes or no. Tell us about yourself, explain to us, give us a picture of what it's going to look like if this animal were to be adopted to you, because I get, anywhere from 20 to 40 applications a day through email. So if yours doesn't stand out, you're going to be somebody who is unsuccessful. And I understand that is frustrating for people. But you've got to make it stand out, and you've got to sell yourself to me. I'm the filter to get to pick who these animals go to. So you've got to make it stand out and really explain to me why you should be in a position to have this animal.
That's great. How would you... how do I word this? Would you encourage somebody to get a foster pet instead of a new pet?
I would definitely encourage people to look at adopting. The hashtag that we have is adopt, don't shop. So adopt a pet, don't shop for your pet. There's always going to be, breeders are always going to be around. It's always going to be a thing because a lot of people have a preference for a breed of animal that they love. Yeah. I'm guilty of that. I'm obsessed with golden retrievers. I think that they're just the best dogs ever. I'm very biased. I grew up with one. But I think that, every rescue has every different kind of dog. If you're after a pug dog, there's pug dog rescues. If you want a husky, there's husky dog rescues. So there's lots of breed-specific rescues. There also is golden retriever rescue as well, which I have my eye on.
Sorry, Jazz.
But I think, making that conscious decision to adopt is one that it's a very selfless decision to make, to say that, I am going to be responsible for giving this animal a second chance. I am really going to, make that conscious decision. And I think it went from people sort of being like, oh, you have a rescue dog, they're always like half-bred mutts or whatever. People used to have that attitude. I think now we've seen a massive shift towards adoption becoming more of a common occurrence, and people are actually saying, I'm not going to get a pet unless it's a rescue. I'll wait until I am successful, or I'll wait until there's the right dog for me, the breed that I'm looking for, or the temperament, or that, they meet what I'm looking for. I'll wait. And I think that in itself is a really powerful thing, because we as a society have become so accustomed to having everything we want the minute that we want it, and that people will message and be like, I want a puppy right now, or I want a kitten right now. Do you have any right now? It's my son's birthday on the weekend, or it's, I just want one now. And I just say to people, this is how breeders have created this, industry where there's always going to be animals available. There's always going to be animals available, so you can have everything that you want at the drop of a hat. And that's just not how reality works. And I have to say to people, we've got so many animals in care right now, but it's going to take them some time to be ready. They have to grow up and they have to be vetted, and you just need to be patient, and you'll see them on the page once they're ready. But I can't just have every different breed of animal or size of animal ready to go just because that's what you want. So being in a position to wait, I think I love when I see people say that, I want this kind of dog, or I want this temperament, and I'm willing to wait until the right dog comes. That's when I go, okay, this is a person they're actually really trying to be mindful and find the right pet for their family, rather than just going by the look of something. Yeah.
It seems to be getting more popular, like you said, but it should be.
100% it should be, because I think, like I was saying, we've become so accustomed to just having everything that we want when we want it, that I think we do need to just sit back and say, well, hey, what are the damaging side effects of that? If we've just created this industry where there's always going to be animals available, maybe think about those conditions that those animals are in, and there's what they have to go through for there always to be puppies. There was, I don't know if I can talk about this, but it was on the news, was a lady out in, I think it was out of town a bit, and she had 23 greyhounds taken off her because the RSPCA and Greyhounds Victoria were like appalled at the condition that these dogs were in, and she was breeding these dogs. So I think it's really important for people that instead of just going like, oh, there's such a cute puppy, oh my goodness, look where the parents are, look at the state that they're in, look at the environment, you know, do they have clean water, do they have clean bedding?
Yeah.
How many dogs are there? Because there's actually laws in Victoria around how many dogs somebody can have and how many cats somebody can have to breed from. So as a consumer, you need to be incredibly responsible and really take that on board, that that's your responsibility to make sure that those animals are being well taken care of. And if you do decide to go down the path of a breeder, make sure that, you know, the breeder is registered and accredited and affiliated with who they need to be affiliated with to be legit. And the best sign to look for through a breeder is, are the puppies or the kittens desexed? If they're not, the breeder's not registered. If they are, they're registered, and you can actually go through them because they have to have sustainable breeding practices and they're upheld to a higher standard.
Yeah. How can the community help you more?
The community are doing an amazing job of supporting us. I can't thank everyone enough for the money that they've donated and the items that they've donated. We have a donation bin out at Petstock, and Petstock are constantly ringing saying, guys, it's full, there's more stuff. And Petstock themselves have we're so indebted to them for how much support they've provided to us, like with food and worming and litter and everything. We're just so blown away with the support that we've gotten from everybody. But I think, you know, having those conversations with your friends and family about, well, why aren't your pets desexed, or what can we do to help, and making sure that you as a pet owner are making those decisions that, you know, that is your pet, that's your responsibility to care for them, and part of caring for them is making sure that they are desexed and that they're up to date with their vaccinations and, you know, that they are happy and healthy. So I think just having those conversations with people about the importance of desexing their pets, one of my best friends, and well, two of my best friends, they had a dog that was not desexed, and some of my carers that are also my best friends, we had to say to him, you know, why is the dog not desexed? What's going on? And he was like, but you know, it's so masculine for my dog to have, you know, its balls there, and he just had this attitude you know, he's a male dog, he has to stay intact. I'd be taking his manhood away from him if I was to desex him. And then as we got more involved with the rescue, he was sort of oh, okay, I'm, you know, this needs to change. And he ended up having the dog desexed, and to me, I'm far out. I'm okay, if I can change his mind, I can change anyone's mind. I can, you know, we do have the power to make people change their minds and encourage people just to do that. And I think with cats especially, because so many people just let their cats free roam through town and everything, it's so important to have them desexed. And, you know, I think hopefully we can get some strategies in place to make it more affordable for everyone so that it is more accessible, and we won't see so many kittens born every kitten season to mum cats everywhere roaming around town. Yeah,
it's a great message. And it needs to just be in front of people more.
Yeah, and I think that...
Because I don't think people think about it, with the amount of information that you have, they kind of just brush it off.
Yeah, and I think that it is really easy for people to sort of just be like, oh, I'll get around to that eventually, or I'll eventually get them desexed. And I just, you know, I always say to people, if you got a rescue, they have to be desexed, they have to be vaccinated, they have to be microchipped. So that's also an incentive for people to buy through a rescue and adopt instead of shop for their pets, because then everything's already done when you get them. You're just responsible for loving for them and for caring for them when you get them home. There's no massive vet bill awaiting you to have all those procedures done and make sure that they are, you know, happy and healthy. They come that way when you go through a rescue or when you do go through a registered breeder. So hopefully now with social media and stuff as well, and we can really just try to be transparent with people and get that message out there, and hope that more people will start to see, you know, the implications of not having their pets desexed, and that actually is, you know, not in their pet's best interest to just let them breed and breed and breed and breed, that they actually do have a responsibility to ensure that doesn't happen. So the answer to the problem from the conversation we've just had, and you can add in because I'll probably forget some things, but you buy from a registered breeder. Mm-hmm. All pets that aren't from a registered breeder are desexed. No, so if you go through a registered breeder, they will be desexed, But anyone who's just like what we would call like a backyard breeder, they won't have desexed a pet. So if you're sort of like on Facebook Marketplace or on Gumtree and they're sort of going like, oh, they're not desexed, they're microchipped, that's someone that we would identify as being a backyard breeder. So unless you are registered, you're basically in the rescue community would be called a backyard breeder, and we don't support people who do that. We would say if you want to make that decision to breed your pet, you should actually be registered through council, and you should actually have to have all those checks and balances in place to make sure that you're doing this responsibly and sustainably, and that all the puppies or kittens that you're breeding are desexed prior to them going to their new homes.
Yeah. So the pets are desexed by the breeder, and then there's some sort of process for you to get a pet to make sure you can look after it.
Yeah, there should be. And like most registered breeders, because prior to getting into rescue, I bought one of my cats from a registered breeder that my mum now cares for because she's obsessed with her. So she was from a registered breeder, and she was desexed, microchipped, vaccinated. I had to do a 45-minute phone call with this lady and run her through exactly what kind of home this cat was going to have when she came to me. And I just sort of said, I've got another cat, she's going to be so spoiled. And she's like, are you going to be able to keep her on the same food? It's going to cost you $40 a month. And I was like, yeah, of course I can. Whatever she needs, I'll keep her. She'll be so spoiled. She's going to have the best life. And it was a 45-minute phone call. This lady said, she's like, you have to do this call or you're not getting the cat. And I was like, oh, of course, I'll answer any questions you've got. And she's like, who lives in your home and how many people are there, and are there kids, and are the kids gentle with cats, or, are you going to let them outside, or are you going to do this, or are you going to be able to maintain her vaccinations, are you going to worm her and flea treat her and all these things. And to me, that's what every process should be for when you adopt a pet. And it wasn't just that, but what was I going to do to, entertain her every day? Was I going to play with her? Was I going to give her a cat run outside, or all these sorts of things? And I think that if every, breeder did that, we would notice a massive shift. And I think that with that shift occurring though, we need to change our values and how we view animals, that they're not just, something to sit in the backyard all day. They are family. They are, they're a living, breathing being who are so attached to us, and we owe it to them to really show them that love and showcase how much we, respect them, that we decided to get a pet, and showcase that to them all the time.
Yeah. You couldn't do this without your team.
Could not do it without my team.
If you were going to give them a message on how important they were to you, how would that sound?
Oh, I couldn't do any of this without them. I could not run this rescue by myself. I'm so indebted to all of them for their dedication and for their hard work and their perseverance when, fostering isn't always easy. There are some, really tricky sides to it, and some fosters can be really, really difficult and really, it really can be an emotional process. So I'm just would say to all my carers that I'm so grateful for them, and all of the animals that they've saved as well are so grateful as well.
Who locally inspires you?
So many people. There's literally so many people. I could probably sit here for 10 minutes and rattle off people that I think are just amazing and doing amazing things around town. I think I would say Sam Spinks and Fern Summers, the two young women who have just been elected into local government.
Yeah, why?
I just think it's awesome to see young girls getting elected into positions of power, and really powerful to see, that the community has actually put them there. That it's, we've all voted that way, and we've all said, hey, we want to see change. We don't just want, the same old, people in charge. We want to see, fresh young faces, and we want them to be female. I think it's really empowering to see that. And I was so excited when I saw the everything come out and say that they'd been elected. I was like, yes, because I did vote for both of them.
Yeah, I followed Sam's journey closely and it was awesome. And she's going to do an amazing job.
So amazing. So amazing. It's awesome to see.
Yeah, she's going to bring something to the council. I feel like the guys that I talked to, they're very practical, and they talked about the budget and stuff like that. But then Sam came on and she talked about family and community and stuff like that, where I feel like you need both sides.
You do, 100%. I
to
think
run
that's
a
where,
town properly.
Exactly, and I think that's where they're going to get that real balance, because I know all of those things that Sam really cares about are things that are really important to me, which is obviously why I voted for her. And I think the same with Fern, she's so passionate about youth issues, and I think that's going to be really refreshing to have somebody in council that's actually advocating for kids and advocating for youth in the community, because we don't have that. We have a lot of people who are very business focused and very focused on, like you said, the budget and, you know, business and what we're going to do to increase business and tourism and all these things, and that's all great, but I think there's a lot of problems in the community that do need to be addressed, and talking about budgets and all those sorts of things is not what the issues are.
Awesome. Anything you want to leave the Shepparton people with? If they're going to donate, where do they donate? Petstock and... Yeah,
so we've got a donation bin out at Petstock, so you can donate like food or litter, anything like that. Or if you would like to donate money, you can go through our website. We have a PayPal account, or you can always just message the page and I can send you our bank details if you'd like to do a direct deposit.
Great. Thank you, Tilliah.
Thanks so much, Ali.